Hello and good morning and welcome to the Matchbook Betting Exchange podcast, where myself and the Maestro PL will be discussing all matters Matchbook Betting Exchange Maiden Derby. Paul, firstly, before we get into the action itself, we must mention our sign-up offer. Insights 30 for new members of the betting exchange for new sign-ups. Bet €30. If it loses, you get €30 as a free bet. We've been advertising it here for the last couple of weeks. Perhaps you are on something at a biggish price in the Maiden Derby. You may have sidestepped the favourite. If you did, you're probably in a very good position right now because, of course, the Derby favourite did come out, and Paul Coulivanny Shadow unfortunately picked up a stress fracture. It's one of those things that sounds much worse than it is, but it's just enough to keep him out for, I think Patrick Janssen said yesterday, 3 to 4 weeks. In my recollection, it's generally more of a 6 to 7 week thing, but it's perfectly fine. You just treat it and it comes back right as rain. But it's going to keep him out of the Maiden Derby and most likely keep him out of the Derby itself, which will come up soon after. It's a huge blow to the competition. I read through Patrick Jansen's quotes, and I tend to agree with everything he said, Paul, this morning in the Racing Post, that, it probably was going to come a bit too soon from the Derby this year. He's probably a dog that would really excel around the likes of Monmore and Yarmouth this year, and he'll be stronger next year for the Derby campaign. I probably tend to agree with him.
Yeah, I think actually you alluded to the fact that he probably looked at not the strongest of stayers, and that's probably the maturity thing, isn't it? That the kind of getting to full race fitness and the peak of his career. I think Patrick saw the sort of the green shoots of a very fast dog from his first race win, and then thought this is something to work on, and the Maiden Derby was the perfect foil for him to then launch his career. Things obviously, because you're a young greyhound, things may not have developed within his frame and his body quite to the way that maybe he wanted, and it's just caught up with him. But again, you're right, because the fact that he's caught it, Ron's checked him, he's gone to Stefano's. Nowadays, there is a means and a way to get back. There's so much experience, and I think that's the thing with Patrick. It's not really phased him. He had the experience with Mark Wallace with Blonde Snapper. He made that kind of comparison, and I think there'll be a future for him. And I think it's probably one of those where you could be tempted then to try him in the Derby, and yet really in the heart of hearts, you maybe know he's not quite ready for it, although he's fast enough to win the first round. You then got to go through those 5 rounds, haven't you, to then do it and keep doing it to win the actual pinnacle, the blue ribbon.
Yeah, I think at this stage it'll probably sidestep the Derby. So just beware. Just while we mentioned that the English Derby betting has gone live on Matchbook, Paul, in the matter of the last day or two. So plenty of interest in that following this Maiden Derby, of course. We're at a very, very important time of the year for greyhound racing on both sides of the Irish pond. You said there about the stress fracture. I remember Climate Control had a stress fracture one time back in I think it was the Gold Collar or something around Harold's Cross, and a few months later, he won the Irish Greyhound Derby. It happens. It's one of those things, as you said, once you catch it, if you run them when you haven't caught it, well, then there is a fracture there. It can be career ending, but this dog will be given every possible, time to come back to his very best. And I would imagine in 6 weeks he'll be right as rain and ready to take on the world. As I said, I think Monmore is going to be his track this year. I think he's pretty much unbeatable in the UK, around somewhere like Monmore or Yarmouth. But we'll watch this space. Unfortunately, he's not there. But we will. I'll tell you what we'll do, Paul. We'll reference the the quarterfinals from last week, because we did have 4 fine displays as we look ahead to the semi-finals. The first of the 4 heats saw the early speed of Zazara's Jack once again. He's a nice sized dog. He's not doing time, Paul, but just got out in front, was never in danger, and emerged a good winner from Savannah Camino and Havana Robusto, 2 strong runners in behind him. It was a race lacking in early speed. We touched on that last week, and he made the most of his early dash.
Yeah, I mean, he's come out of A2s, and actually his last effort in A2 he got beat, but it just seemed to like the last couple of weeks he might actually be improving. But as you say, time wise, you'd fancy that he's got plenty to do to catch up with the quicker dogs that have already proven. But as I say, he's no sort of spring chicken, is he? But he's November 19, but he is 4 from 8. So he does seem to be going the right way. It's the class, isn't it? Whether he can actually do that in against the faster dogs.
Yeah, he doesn't have the right makeup the next day, but we'll get to that
No.
soon enough. Havana Robusto and Savannah Camino in behind him, and they really just want further, Paul, don't they? They're just not. They're just not quick enough to win this competition.
Yeah, they seem like they're stayers in the making. You're right, and they look like that pre-comp, and from what we've seen of them, we're justified in that assessment. I fancy, yeah.
Now, the next heat featured a certain Farney's Maestro and Coulivanny Shadow clashing. This was the race where Coulivanny Shadow missed the kick, showed great early speed, got to the front, went clear. Farney's Maestro just outstayed him in the closing yards. But in hindsight, Coulivanny Shadow may well have been feeling something, and that can perhaps justify how he was picked up in 29.47. We know how fast a greyhound he is. He's always going to need to be on the bunny. He had to work hard to get on the bunny. He was picked up. So we won't spend too much time talking about him, but Farney's Maestro showed a really willing attitude. He's an August 20 whelp, son of Sparta Maestro. Good start, led into the opening corner where he was headed by Coulivanny Shadow, but dug deep again to get there in the closing yards. A really likeable display.
It was because the thing about this dog is that, again, he is very, very inexperienced. And I think I said when we were previewing the competition anti-post, I said that, Kevin must have seen something in him to win the A7 over in Ireland and then fetch him across to be, let's get it right, open class. You need to be a decent open class performer to win this competition. And I've really liked him. And I watched him again in his round last Sunday, and he still looks like he hasn't actually got his action, his gait together. He still looks very, very inexperienced. And I think there'll be improvements to come when he learns how to race in the straight line, if you like. He got slightly pinched back going into the first bend last week by Coulivanny Shadow, and then he had to kind of get a path coming off, and he had to actually check his stride to come out to deliver his challenge on the run-in. So again, you take those couple of little knocks and pushes, he's learning, but you'd say, well, he could go that little bit faster as well with the clear passage. So there's plenty to work on, I fancy, with Farney's Maestro. He looks a really likeable dog.
PJ's Forever was always third. He's going to need to find a few lengths on the clock to really worry the big guns. On to Heat 3, where Wide Open once again set the standard, Paul. She was so impressive yet again. Hard to believe she's only had a handful of races. This is her fourth start, her second in the UK. She's 2 from 2 over here. She certainly likes the UK air. 29.18. It was just a brilliant run by an August 20. She's so strong. Stories Pee Wee ran a big race in second spot. You highlighted him before the competition. We know what he's about. He's all about power and strength. I'm really impressed with how he's handling Toaster. Seems really at home around the place. And hell of a kerfuffle, who I'd mentioned before the competition. He's going to need to find a few legs, but at the same time, he's not too far behind some on the clock. There's not too many in front of him on the clock at this point. He's only beaten just over 5 lengths in 29.18. Wide Open. She's an immensely talented lady. Gets tougher from here, though.
Yeah, of course, but I think probably if we spoke about Farney's Maestro, they're drawing in the same semi-final. She actually looks, for all her inexperience, like she knows what she's doing. She looks the real deal now. And the fact that she's done the 29.20, then the 29.18, you say, well, is there further improvement? You'd say, well, because of her age, yeah, of course, there must be. But I don't think there's going to be that enormous curve. I just think
she's not going sub 29.
No, but she looks a really, really nice prospect. And I think because of her strength as well, she looks to be a good competition lady as well. So yeah, she's very, very nice.
Yep, and Pee Wee is running so well. He's a dog you could easily see in a quarterfinal of a derby, and then, with a bit of luck.
Yeah. Now, interesting, because you said when we were previewing about this greyhound, and I said I didn't think he'd be too sad out of trap 3, because I think we'd been seeing him out of red in Shelburne, and you actually said no, he's more middle to wide, and I think you're right. Even out of 4, Ian, he moved slightly off out of 4, and he kind of rubbed shoulders with Chubby's Jet on his outside. So he actually is drawn in 5. I'm really, really surprised. He's kind of I thought he might have had a little bit more early when he started than he has, but he seems. I think he might be because he did rub shoulders, but he's staying really well, and he got beat nothing really. He's a dog that kind of, again, another good competition dog. So he's a really exciting greyhound, and maybe Nathan hasn't quite got to the bottom of him yet, but he's certainly thundering home.
Yeah, certainly thundering home. And then the last of the heats, which could be a very telling heat going forward. Swift Iconic again set the speed out front. Paul, you have him selected from the start of the competition. But Havana Lover, there is so much to like about this lady. She's a massive engine. She missed the kick. She's only fourth into the bend. Now she makes the most of her draw, but she's also, as you said in the second round, she's very clever, or the first round. She's very clever. She really showed good track craft. She slips through into second spot, and once doing so, she probably always had her sights on the leader. She picks him up, wins by 3 parts of a length in 29-49. I like the run by the winner. I really like the run by the winner. I thought the second dog did perfectly well. He's clocking basically the same clock he did in the first round, 29.50 odd, 55, and then Supernova caught my eye. I thought he ran well to be back in third, but again, probably a dog that wants a bit further. But Havana Lover is she's a very, very, very talented lady, Paul.
She is, and I think we both remarked after her first round performance that she surprised her with the early pace that she showed. I didn't think that she really had that much early pace, and I think you probably agreed with me. And she looks like she's got good all-round speed, to be fair to her. I mean, I was really strong on Swift Iconic to beat Havana Lover. I was, and I had to go. I missed the fight 2, took a bit of 2-1, and then they flip-flopped because Swift Iconic, all the money came for him. He was 5-4, and she drifted out, I think, to 2-1 on the exchanges, Havana Lover, and I kind of ended up sort of saving. So it wasn't a disaster for me, but I really felt that if Swift Iconic led, as much as I know Havana Lover stays, I'm convinced he stays. And for God's sake, they finished a furlong clear of Supernova, a furlong clear. And I watched him all the way around to the drop, Swift Iconic. He stays all right. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, like as quick as she closed around the third and fourth bends, you think she's going to win 2 or 3. She wins 3 parts. Like he's coming again at the line. So I tend to agree with you. We said it as son of Droopy's Roddick, he'd probably stay further. As a result, we have 2 wonderful semi-finals to look forward to. Unfortunately, there's only 5 runners in the opening heat, where Havana Lover has a great draw now on the fence. Havana Robusto's in trap 3. He certainly won't worry her. He's no early speed. Hell of a kerfuffle. Not massive early, but he went up reasonably well the other night. He's just behind Wide Open into the opening corner. Savannah Camino, no early speed, and PJ's Forever, probably not enough early speed to go around. Well, maybe he actually has potential leadability claims if you look at his very best sectionals, but it just, everything seems to point to Havana Lover, doesn't it?
I think so. I was trying to make a case for Hell of a Kerfuffle because I was actually quite taken with his effort behind Wide Open. He actually got pinched. He tried to go with it slightly to the corner. He was slightly outpaced, but only slightly.
He'd have been better off. He'd been better off a half length further back, or half length further up. But
because
she
pinched him
wrong at the point.
Yeah, she pinched him back, Ian, and he kind of lost a little momentum as well. He didn't quite come home either, which I thought he was more maybe like a staying type of ground. But I do feel that actually this middle draw might not be a bad thing. I think he could come flying out the boxes and put himself in with a decent picture. Right, PJ's Forever will probably be going up on the wide outside. But I've got to tell you, I was looking to see if I could get Hell of a Kerfuffle to beat Havana Lover, and I'm not really sure I can. So I sided in the end. I thought, well, Havana Lover should win this first Matchbook Exchange Maiden semi-final. So that was the way I saw it. But I do think that you could get a good run out of Hell of a Kerfuffle.
I assume, and we'll get to the prices in a moment, I assume that will be very much taken into account by her new price, Havana Lover. You're not going to get massive value about her at this stage because, barring an accident, she's absolutely guaranteed a place in the final, isn't she?
I do believe she is. Yeah, you're right. I think you need a stick of dynamite to get her out the first 3. So, she really looks like she should be a fairly short price favourite to win this. I say I was just looking for options whether I could get Hell of a Kerfuffle to lead her off. Maybe if he crashes the bars, he might just do something, and he might sort of be in the eye line going at the first bend. But then you think, all things being equal, Ian, from what I saw of him coming home the other day, albeit he wasn't leading, I think Havana Lover will come and pick him up. Like.
Yeah. On to the second heat, which is a much more competitive affair, no question about it. Take it from someone who is backed wide open anti-post. I'm not massively enamoured by this draw. Farney's Maestro, we've seen the last 2 weeks, he's certainly capable of a start. He'll go up reasonably well. I thought he might just edge off the fence. Swift Iconic can go up well in 3, wide open, crammed in between the pair of them. If she doesn't make any mistakes, we know Zazarus Jack is also going to go up strongly from 4. And then you'll have stories Pee-wee and Swift or Supernova finishing strongly on the outside. So any little mistakes from wide open could cost her. At the same time, if she avoids traffic and she slips onto the fence, she probably does have the speed and the power to pick up whatever could potentially go around in front of her. That said, it'd be no surprise if she hit the lids and let's say Farney's Maestro even misses it slightly. If they swap sides, if she got that length quickly, she'd probably slip onto the fence and he might just slip around her. It's an intriguing semi-final. It's not one I'd be getting overly involved in. Wide open will be probably a shorter price than she should be early. I would imagine she'd be a drifter for those looking and watching on the exchange.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail right on the head. I can't disagree with anything you've said there. I don't think she's a good thing by any means. Listen, we want to see her in the final. You especially want to see her in the final. It was a great call from you, sticking her up anti-post, and I wish you all the luck with that. But yeah, this is by far the most competitive semi-final from this Matchbook Exchange Maiden Derby, and I could easily see Farney's Maestro crashing out and giving us something to think about. Swift Iconic is going to crash out and give us something to think about. I thought she might actually edge off a little bit from trap 2 as well, which, if he starts, don't get me wrong, as I said, I can't, go back from what I said earlier on. She looks like she's quite experienced enough, strangely, to handle herself. So, but it's just that maker. Things happen sometimes, don't they? It happened with a break. She could get, pinch for a little bit of room into the turn if she half missed a beat, because you just fancy the Swift Iconic's going to go crash, didn't you?
If she half missed the beat, she might nearly be better off because they might be a full length out in front of her, and then she can make up her own mind where she wants to tackle them. Because as talented as Farney's Maestro and Swift Iconic are, if she's on their heels off the second bend, she's winning. Simple as. That's the way I see it.
That's bold talk. Yeah, no, you could be right, because the clock doesn't lie, and the two efforts at Toaster, and they are only 2 efforts at Toaster as well, whereas the others have got much more experience at the track. Yeah, you could be right. As I say, the probably, if there is a bit of rubbing the shoulders between the inside 3, even the inside 4, because Zazarus Jack's probably going to crash out as well. I don't think he's got enough to clear the inside 3 at all, and then I think he'd be in trouble, because I think he's a front running dog, Ian. I think you'd probably agree.
And I don't think he's going to dive across them on the corner or anything like that. He's probably just going to be the dog that,
where he is. Yeah.
If there is any rubbing on the inside, he's going to be sort of the one on the outside with a domino type effect. You could see him getting an old shoulder as a fullback would give a winger coming down the wing. Just give them a push out of the way, and that'll probably ruin his chances. You have to expect Stories Pee-wee to be absolutely thundering home. My opinion is that one of Farney's Maestro or Swift Iconic may struggle to qualify. If Wide Open can turn relatively close and make her pace count down into the third bend, then one of them is very, very vulnerable to the likes of Stories Pee-wee.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to get a handle on the quality of each of these runners and how good they actually are. I've been a big fan of Swift Iconic, but then he's done 29.55, 29.56, and he looks, that could be his measure. It could be a 29.40 dog, and that's the end of it. Whereas Wide Open's done the 2 smart runs, 29.20, 29.18, back to back. You'd say she's got that little bit in hand, and she stays. And she looked, when she won her A2 in Shelburne, she looked like she stayed really well. Stories Pee-wee, I think he'll go very, very close here. I think this race might just be run to suit him.
It's set up from any bit of traffic on the inside, and he's poaching in behind.
He was 11-2 when he won his opening heat, and he was 6-1 last time against Wide Open. He ran an absolute burst. So the bottom line is he got beat 2 3/4, and he was thundering home. He was coming on
Does
really
that
well.
surprise you, Paul? You know, Nathan Hunt knows the time of day. Obviously, he probably doesn't have the dog all that long. Although, yeah, he's been trialing there since sort of mid March. But like, it's oh no, big. Yeah, he has but this is an outfit that they know the time of day. They're not afraid
Yeah.
to bet them. You know what I mean? Like 11-2 in that opening round. It's still a head scratcher.
It is head scratcher, and it is, and it's. I'm kind of. I think that last one, I'm warming to him. I put him up as a dog to follow in that. I just thought he'd keep qualifying, but I'm still going back to. I think he's got that little bit. I think he's got a little bit more early than he's actually shown at Tosa. I'm convinced that he was intimidated by the dog on his outside when he came from 4. I think this 5 box here is perfect for him. I think it's a really, really good draw. And I can see him running a massive race here. I really can.
Yeah, as I said, I think he wants to be on the outside of dogs. I think he's more comfortable passing on the outside of dogs. He tends to be able to pick his line better from the outside, and I think that's the way forward for him. He is a middle, so if they put him into the Derby, let's say with a middle, he'll probably get 4 or 5 most nights anyway. I think that's probably the right way to go with him. So we'd better take a look at the outright market now, Paul, because as we've said, things have really changed. At the head of the market is wide open. She was about 2.34. I thought we saw this morning 2.34 there. Still a few optimistic punters there looking for the 4.3 in the pink side. Of course, the blue and pink will get much tighter over the next day or two when we get closer to that semi-final action. Havana Lover 5.1. I think that's perfectly fair, Paul. Like I really do. Like you're getting 4-1 about her in the final. You're over 4-1 about her in the final. Like. Just if she got the right draw in the final, she could be even shorter. She could be considerably shorter than that. And I think it's going to take a bomb to keep her out of it. Farney's Maestro, I think I'd be more likely to take the Stories Pee-wee money there to 7.6 than the 5.1 about Farney's Maestro. Swift Iconic for me, still a very big price. I think he's the most likely pace setter in that second semi-final. And if he does get into the final, I think he's likely to lead around the opening corner. That 10 is big. And then after that, I'm really struggling to make claims for the rest. PJ's Forever, Havana Robusto, Supernova, Zazaras, Jack, Hell of a Kerfuffle, Savannah Camino. If I was punting any of them, it's the ones that are in that opening semi-final that you'd be taking a chance on. Maybe an Havana Robusto or a Hell of a Kerfuffle, PJ's Forever, because he has potential leadability claims on the outside. But I don't think I'd be taking the big price runners from the second semi-final, the likes of the Supernova. Forget about it. It wouldn't be on my mind. Paul, what is there any angle there that you'd be interested in?
I suppose hello, Hell of a Kerfuffle, I would say would probably be, if you're having your £2 on for a bit of value at this stage, 42s isn't the worst in the world, because I actually think he can qualify from this draw. And you're right.
From trap 4, he's surely going to lead up Havana Robusto and Savannah Camino. Like he turns the corner in a qualifying position. They're going to have to really move to pick him up.
And again, he just looks like he's improving as a greyhound as well. I quite like the dog. I must admit, I saw him show speed in Hove, and I think that I don't think this middle draw is going to worry him too much in the context of this race. He's got the 2 Havanas inside who aren't renowned for flying early pace. I do think he might just struggle to clear Havana Lover if they break level, but I could see him actually here, Ian, from the middle draw going wallop, and now all of a sudden he's going to put himself in with a chance. And I say, if he's edging in at the bend, which he probably will do, then and Havana Lover hasn't cleared him, then she's going to have something to think about. Now, all you want from Havana Lover is to get a clear run, because if she gets a clear run, she will win this heat. And you mentioned about PJ's Forever. I think he probably actually has got a really good draw on the outside. So if he could dominate or go round first or second, he could qualify, and then he's going to get 6 in his draw in the final. So, I suppose there's worse bets. He might get a little bit bigger than 22s, PJ's Forever, but he's not really a dog I think is going to go forward and do a time to beat the likes of Wide Open or Swift Iconic or Farney's Master or Stories Pee-wee. So I think he will actually struggle. But as a Hail Mary, I think at 42, Hell of a Kerfuffle might be all right.
Yeah, I think it's time we started blowing our own trumpets here, to be honest, Paul. Like, okay, it's well on record that I mentioned Wide Open was my selection prior to the competition, but I also mentioned Hell of a Kerfuffle, who's still there, big chance of making the final. But your 2 are flying. Swift Iconic and Stories Pee Wee. You were pretty sweet in Swift Iconic, and there he is. I still think he's big at 10. I really do. I think he'll be in the final. Certainly, if he clears the inside due, I think he'll be in the final. And Stories Pee Wee is a big player. And is big player. I think for us to have four still going in semi-finals, two in each heat, yeah. Or beg your pardon, we've three in one heat and one in the other heat. I think we should be blowing our trumpets at this point.
Yeah, well, actually, Swift Icon it does get me a nice few quid, to be fair, and I'm convinced he sees the trip out really well. I watched him around the drop, and he keeps going. So it's just a matter of, can he get loose and can he clear the inside pair immediately? Well, if he breaks in his best fashion, sure, he could do that, and that they might then start jostling him in behind, which is going to give him a chance, and then he's going to be looking for Wide Open and Stories Pee Wee where they turn. So yeah, he's got a chance, and he was massively overpriced. As I say, people were boxing him off really as a sprinter, and he's definitely not that. Wide Open, she looks a really nice competition bitch, and hopefully Brendan and will and Damien will get her to the final. So yeah, it's intriguing, isn't it? Because Cordovani Shadow's given the dogs in the first semi quite an effort to get themselves in a big money pot final, and some of the dogs or at least one of the big guns is going to go out, isn't he, in the second? So it's intriguing. It's really interesting, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I think the stage is set for a good final. No matter what the six are, there's enough quality there to ensure that we really have a tremendous Maiden Derby final to look forward to. Of course, last year's competition through Thorn Falcon, who went on to win the Derby itself. Whether there's a Derby winner in this, the remaining 11, I don't know. Perhaps, you never know. There'll certainly be improvement needed, but it's a hell of a good competition. And Paul, we are going to be turning our attention to the Derby very shortly, soon after this competition. Things are really starting to heat up around Toaster. It's exciting time.
Oh, it is, yeah, I've been on record before. I love the setting at Toaster. It is, it's a tricky track to run. It's not a conventional track by any means, but the setting and the atmosphere you get there is terrific. And I for one, will be getting stuck into the form and betting right round by round. And obviously we've got the anti-post market to look forward to. And I've had one little bet so far, and that was Bocco's Belly, just each way, because I just thought, again, he's a good competition dog and he looks like he's back. So
yeah, ran very well last week. Again, Patrick Jansen did a great job to get him back on the track, and by all accounts, he looks like he's been rewarded for his efforts.
yeah, having said that, there's a lot of it was only the price really that drew me in, but there's a lot of young dogs, and I think you've been quoted as well saying that there's a lot of dogs in the Kirby at the moment. And I spoke to Pat and Emma Buckley yesterday, and a dog that I really like is Bannable Red, and he'll be in the Kirby final tonight. I think Guildfall's got lots of dogs that will be coming over as well. Explosive Boy, to name but one. So yeah, I think Pat's got a nice team of dogs, probably the best team of dogs I've ever seen. And of course, you'll get Graham Holland coming over as well, and Park Blake, he's running tonight at Limerick. He looks a nice competition dog as well. So it's boiling up nicely, Ian. I think it'll be a really good Toaster Derby this year.
Yeah, it surely will be. And don't forget, anti-post prices available now on Matchbook Betting Exchange. You'll be betting all heats, all anti-posts through those to competition. That's after the Maiden Derby, which we can look forward to on Saturday. Touching on one or two things there, Bocco's Belly is a half-brother to Coolavani Shadow. So it's staying the family. Coolavani Shadow, whether he makes it or not to the Derby, Bocco's Belly will be there. I just wanted to point out, I was in Limerick the other night and got out and took a look at the track. I think if you run Limerick, you'll run Toaster. I think Limerick is a bit like Toaster, just with longer straights. But I think you're on the turn an awful long time as well, much like Toaster. I think if dogs run Limerick, they'll run Toaster. And I think that'll work out okay for the Irish, because I think this year's Kirby Memorial, is exceptionally strong. Of course, it finishes tonight at Limerick. Paul, nothing more for us to say except for best of luck punting over the weekend. It's a big weekend for Greyhound sport, all leading to that Maiden Derby semi-finals on Saturday afternoon around the wonderful Toaster. I agree with you. It's the most incredible venue for a derby. I can't wait to be there, derby final night. That's my next journey to the place. And I think the track is much better than it was in first time round, shall we say. It was closed for those couple of years. I think it's a much better track now since they just narrowed it a bit. I don't think there's as much room for dogs to wander about. And yeah, let's hope we'll get more top class racing there on Sunday.
Let's hope so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that's it from us on Matchbook Betting Exchange this morning. We've taken a look again at the semi-finals of the Matchbook Betting Exchange Maiden Derby. It's a wonderful competition. Just the 11 left. Unfortunately, Coulivanny's Shadow isn't there, but we will see plenty of him in the future. He's a top-class greyhound and will continue to be so in the future. But that's it from us this morning. Don't forget, if you sign up, £30, should I say? I keep saying the euro. That's the Irish in me. £30 sign-up offer. Insights 30. Bet €30 or £30. If it loses, you get it back in the form of a free bet. It's a no-brainer. We'll see you next time on the Matchbook Betting Exchange pod.